Hello everyone and welcome back to Finance with JTL, the finance show aimed at new and intermediate level investors. Today's show is on the subject of the Junior ISA, which is a potential opportunity in the long term to make your child a millionaire, so it's well worth staying tuned for. So I've made this video because I believe knowledge about this investment mechanism is a key building block as you build up your investment knowledge, and I believe it could benefit your existing or future children quite considerably. Now, the objectives for today's show: firstly, I would like to share the details of what actually a junior ISA is, and then the takeaway is to understand how children could benefit from a junior ISA. So if we press on, now first of all, what is a junior ISA? So I've distilled it down to these 5 key points. Firstly, it is a savings account for children aged under 18 living in the UK. Now, there are 2 versions of this account. There's the cash version, where you deposit your money in bank and they'll pay you interest, or there's the stocks and shares version that I'll be focusing on for the rest of this video, and that is where it's actually an investment vehicle for your children. Now, one can actually put up to £9,000 per year into a junior ISA, so there's quite a nice threshold there. And the absolute killer here, really key bit of information, is that there's no tax due on the growth, the value of the shares or the funds, so no tax on capital growth. There's no tax on the dividends that the companies and funds might pay you, and there's no tax on the interest. It's a really tax efficient way of saving for your children. Now, it's also very much a long-term investment vehicle because children cannot withdraw this money until they're 18. So you may have potentially up to an 18-year investment in the initial phase. Now, I'm going to show 3 phases here, or 2 linked phases and perhaps an alternative. So I think phase 1 is where you might add £50 a month until the child's 18. So that comes out at just over £10,000 input over that period. And if you invest that, 8% is a pretty decent target as a long-term investment growth rate. And you might be able to achieve that through investing in various indexes, which are very low cost and they're passive. So you might, let's say, invest in the American index, so the S&P 500. And you could put that investment in on day 1, have that chipping in every year, and you never have to do anything else if you are happy to invest in the American stock market. Same we done here for the FTSE 100, or there are many other options. You could perhaps put it into a Asian index tracker, or one for Australia. There's plenty of options here. But let's just say 8% is a decent target for that long-term growth. Now, if the investment grew at 8% a year, with the compounding kicking in, the £50 a month actually outturns at somewhere around kind of 22 to 23,000. So that's a decent amount of growth. And if you just happen to grow a bit slower than that, so let's say 6%, that would be about 18,000. So 2% lower, but if it's 2% higher, you'd be looking at perhaps 27 to 28,000. But let's just kick that 8% target, 22,000. So that's quite a nice thing for your kids to go, surprise, age 18, you've now got £22,000. However, the real exciting stuff happens in phase 2. So if you start at 22,000 and then you don't actually put anything else in for the next 50 years, you go from 18 to 68 and just hold that initial amount, there's some potentially really large and significant investment gains to be realised. Now, at the 8% rate of growth, you're talking £1 million. So you put in £50 a month in phase 1 for 18 years, you leave it for another 50 years, age 68, about the retirement age, is worth £1 million from about 10, 11 grand in. So that's absolutely fantastic. Now, if actually that rate of return was 6%, 2% lower, it'd probably only be worth about 400,000. But if it was 2% higher at 10%, you're looking at 2.5 million. So that rate of return has a very significant impact on the outturn value. So do try and find funds that have very low fees in order to ensure that you can maximise your return here. So that's pretty cool, and that's really good. But there is perhaps an alternative, and you might say, I don't want to chip in 50 quid a month going on for 18 years. You might say, I put in the full maximum on day one, £9,000, the day the child's born, and then do nothing. And now if you left that, it's fallen to 18, and then they left it to 68, like in the last example, you're actually then looking at about 1.6 to 1.7 million on your 8% return. Or on a 10% return, it's about 5.9 million. So this is pretty impressive. You could just put one payment in, nothing happens 68 years. On an average day, you might walk out then with 1.6 million. If you had a good run of growth, you might walk out with almost 6 million. In summary, the Junior ISA is a tax-efficient tool that will help you start long-term savings and investment pot for your children. And the way to take maximum advantage of that is to give the compounding effect time to work. So don't just treat it as a maximum 18-year junior ISA for your children. Over time, as you educate them on this, have them think of it as a 68-year investment. So you look after it for 18 years, they look after it for 50 years, and then at the end of it, there's a pretty good chance that there could be £1 million of value in there from an investment of just over 10,000. So that is an absolutely incredible return. And you're looking there at 100 times growth, give or take. Now, I'm not saying go out and do this immediately. I'll be doing it for my children, but of course my circumstances are different to yours. Everyone has their individual circumstances, so don't take this as financial advice. Do have it in your consideration of things you might do, but do take professional advice before you then embark on this activity. So in closing, I'd like to ask for your support for the channel. So please click like for this video if you found the content useful. And if you consider subscribing, I'd be most grateful, and then you can be alerted to my next sets of videos. And I've got several planned. So in the next kind of 2 weeks, we'll be having the review of my portfolio for the end of August. There might be a video on insurance. I'm also looking at doing one around how many stocks should you hold in your investment portfolio. So these just highlights of things that are coming up. I've got another 40 or so shows planned at the moment, and there'll be perhaps even more. So please do support the channel. And in closing today's show, I'd like to thank you very much for watching, listening, and I'll see you next time.